Morning, guys. This is going to be our video for week 3. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and review some of the questions and such from week 2, just to make sure that you're good to go with that before we move forward. And then I'm going to go over some stuff for section 4. I think I just have section 4 for us for this week. Let me double check. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. Yes, so just section 4. It's a little bit longer, but the ode is actually a little bit shorter. So I think it kind of balances out. Um, so let's start with our questions from last week. So we had 6 total. Our first one was, what is Creon's definition of an effective ruler? And of course, they want you to use evidence. So I kind of pointed this out in the last video. Creon sits there and says to everybody that, effective rulers pay attention and they listen to smart people about things they know about, and literally the only person that Creon listens to is Creon. So really, by his own definition, he's saying he's a bad ruler. And he pretends to listen to the chorus, who again is like the voice of society. And he just doesn't listen to them and points himself out as being a bad ruler. And of course, there's tons of evidence to support that, especially in his first speech. Moving on to question 3. It says, review lines 219 through 239. How does Creon justify treating the brothers so differently after their deaths? Do you think his different treatment of them is justified? So really, he kind of focuses on, in those about, 20 lines, whether or not their actions were honorable and respectful or not. And really, he says that Eteocles, the good brother, follows the rules. He tries to save Thebes. He fights for the people. And so he's therefore doing honorable things. Therefore, he should be respected, especially in death. On the other hand, we know the evil brother, Polynices, didn't do those things. He didn't follow along with the game plan. He didn't try to save Thebes. So he's seen as dishonorable, and therefore he should be disrespected. And by disrespected here, he makes up this claim that no one should bury him and no one should honor him. No one will cry for him because he's dead. And if they do, they're going to be put to death. And of course, we already know that Antigone's already game planning this, so we can assume that Antigone's going to be in trouble. But because that's his niece, we're not sure about how much trouble. And that will kind of come to a climax moment in the next scene, in scene 4, section 4, excuse me. So you guys are going to see this week what happens to Antigone, according to Creon, or what should happen to her. On to section 4. We are looking at lines 242 through 248. Using evidence from the text, discuss how Creon viewed the chorus's views, of Creon control. Creon's control seem to have changed from the beginning of the scene. So at first, they're very, very for Creon. They're like, yeah, we're hopeful. He's going to be great. New eyes, fresh blood. It's going to be much better than it has been, because it's been very crazy. And unfortunately, they start to see him calling himself unknowingly a bad leader, and he's not listening, and he's not taking advice, and he's doing all of these pretty out there things, like not burying Polynices. And again, he has to wait 100 years to cross the river Styx before he can properly be put to rest. And so they kind of think he has too much power. They kind of point out, well, you're telling everybody what to do. What do you want us to do? And he's like, oh, you should, go watch over Polynices' body. And they're like, we're not doing that. We're respected members of the community. We're not going to go sit there and be little dead body bodyguards. And he's like, oh, I'll just send some younger guards to do that. And they're like, All right, so still, the question stands, what do you want us to do? And he really just says, well, don't fall victim to evil doing. And they're like, okay. I don't know what that means, but okay. So they really don't support him starting in this scene 3. They do at the beginning and they're hopeful, but by the end of the scene, towards the middle, towards the end, they're really not really falling for it anymore. There's really not a lot of hope for him. And then we move on to question 5, which talks about the hyperbole in 305 and 306 and what emotion does this exaggerated imagery employ. So they're talking about picking up hot irons. They're like, we will face anything, any dangerous thing in order to, protect this body. And of course, you can't literally pick up a hot iron like with your hands, like it would burn your skin. So that's like the obvious, like they're saying it but they don't mean it, the hyperbole part. But of course, it kind of brings up that it might be dangerous, but it also kind of points out that they seem really, really, for lack of a better term, gung-ho, which is kind of like really like enthusiastic about it. They're ready. But as we see, the body gets buried anyway. We already know who buried the body. Like, they didn't really stop anything. And we see a little bit more from the guard in section 4. So I'll put a pin in that for now. But we really just see some of that buildup of, them being all ready to do it, but then they kind of flop and they don't do what they're supposed to. For number 8, we have what does Creon say in his speech about money, and how does this speech help develop his character? So Creon really points out for quite a few lines, I'd say a good 20, that money is evil and you can't do anything because money's going to win every time. It makes people, go against their beliefs and values. But it kind of just makes him seem like he's honorable and he'll do the right thing even if money's involved. But it's really hard to say that when he's the king. He's got all the money. So can he really understand that? Can he really understand what it's like to be put up against money? And really need that? We can't really say, but it kind of makes him seem fair, but also really strict and firm, like he's going to do whatever he says because he's not going to be bought by money. But of course, it's hard to say that when you have all the money. You're not in the same position as some people. And that brings us to our final question, question 9. Has the guard's character changed at all since the beginning of the text, and how would you describe his character using evidence? So, I wouldn't say he changed. I think he gets more annoying to Creon. He's more talkative and he's more worried about himself because he's very selfish, guys. The only thing he's worried about when he goes to tell Creon what happened is whether or not he's going to die. He's like, don't blame me. I don't want to die. I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. And Creon's like, I'm not going to kill you. Just tell me what happened. And he finally does. And Creon's really angry. And at the end, he does say, if you don't figure it out, I'm going to kill you. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if I want that. And then he, at the end of the scene, kind of says, well, I'm never coming back here again. So it just kind of points out that he's selfish, that he's really annoying, and that, he's kind of normal. He doesn't have these out there values. He's just kind of like watching out for himself and whatnot. And that kind of wraps up scene 3. And now just to kind of review stuff for scene 4, section 4. I keep saying scene. Sorry, guys. We have, starting on 336, page 336 is section 4. We enter the scene with the chorus kind of saying that they know it's Antigone. So the guard has brought in Antigone, and they found out that it was her who had buried the body. They're like, oh no, and they like pity her. They feel bad for her because, it is her brother, and she lost her mom and dad, and both of her brothers, and potentially she might lose her own life now. So they're showing a lot of pity towards her. And then we see the guard comes in and he says, "Yep, it was her. She did it. This one right here." But of course, he doesn't really seem to know who it is. He doesn't realize that she is Antigone, like the princess of the land, that it's Creon's niece. Like, he doesn't notice any of these things, so it kind of shows that he's not really intelligent. That's why he's a guard and not a king, I guess. He ain't that smart. And then we have the chorus leader, Creon, and the guard in the next scene for the most part. For the about the next page and a half. So they start off with Creon comes in and he finds out that it was Antigone. He's like, "Oh, you? It was you? Like, how could you?" And the guard kind of explains what has happened. He explains how he found her and all this kind of stuff. And of course, it could have taken maybe 5 lines, and he uses a good, like, 13. In a typical guard fashion, he over-exaggerates, gives details that aren't really necessary. So Creon and the guard go back and forth. He's not sure. He's like, "Are you sure that, she's the one you found?" And the guard's like, "Yeah, told you. Told you I'd find her. I didn't even want to come back, but, here's the killer. I don't want to die." Or, the killer, excuse me. The barrier. And he's like, "I saw it happen. What more do you want?" And the guard goes on this long explanation, because Creon asks, "How did this happen? How did you find her?" So the guard takes the next 25 lines, to explain about a big storm that happened and how bored they were at first and all this kind of stuff, and it has nothing to do with them actually catching Antigone in the act. So I would say the last maybe 10 lines, 15 lines, actually talk about them finding Antigone. It's toward the bottom of page 337 when the guard is speaking. He says, "She was not afraid at all when we caught her, and really I'm only worried about my own safety." And they only caught her because they heard her crying. So they clearly weren't watching the body. They were, because the body was unburied again and put back, and she was crying over the body, which they weren't supposed to do. And that's the only reason she got caught, because she was crying, I guess, loudly. But again, the guards weren't doing their job if they didn't see all that. So then Creon, "Is this true? Do you admit it? Are you sure this is what happened?" And she literally says, "I admit I did it. I won't deny that." And then, of course, he wants to know, why would you do that? But he tells the guard, "You're dismissed, get out of my face," because he's really, really annoyed with the guard, because he's so annoying. He's so much of a chatterbox. And he wants to interrogate Antigone. It says it right there. He tells the guard to leave so that he can interrogate Antigone. So he wants answers. He wants to know why she did this. And it says, "Tell me, be brief," because, the guard wasn't brief. He's like, "Please just tell me exactly what happened, because I don't need this fool telling me what happened. So tell me what happened right now." So she's like, "I buried him. That's how it went down." And he's like, "Okay, but why would you break the law? I made this law. You knew about it, right?" She's like, "Everyone knew about it. Of course they did." And she's like, "But Zeus didn't make that law. So the gods didn't make it." She says, "I don't have to follow your human laws, because I'm following the Greek gods' laws. And they're gonna impact my life a lot more than you will for the rest of eternity. So I'm going to follow their laws and not yours. So suck it up, Buttercup. It's already done." She's, again, not fearful. She's not afraid to die. She even says, "I know all too well I'm going to die." She's not afraid. How could I not? It makes no difference what you decree. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to die either way. And she's like, whether I die before my time, like before I'm actually health-wise going to die, if you kill me, either way I'm going to die. It just depends on when. And at least I died standing up for what I believe in. And at least he got peace, whereas you haven't given Polynices peace at all. And she has no regrets. And it says, if you think what I'm doing is now stupid, so if you think I'm acting ridiculous, if you think I'm stupid, perhaps I'm being charged with foolishness by someone who is a fool. So she literally calls Creon a fool. She says, if you think what I did was illegal or wrong or foolish, then you're foolish, you're stupid, you're the fool. Because what I did was respectful and honorable, which is what you're supposed to be as the king. But I'm carrying your slack. And the chorus leader is almost supportive. They're like, wow, that's such passion. That's so, so thoughtful for her to do that, even though she knows she's going to die, or she was pretty sure she was going to die. So Creon chimes in again, and he's like, look at her with her pride and this and that and the other, and he wants to break her spirit, which he never is able to do throughout the play. Just a little fun fact. And he's like, oh, look how proud she is of herself. She's laughing at us, blah, blah, blah. But she's been serious the whole time. There's no indication that she's thinking this is a game or anything of the sort. And it's like, you're challenging my manliness. A little girl isn't going to rule this kingdom and rule my decision. And she's like, what's that got to do with anything? And of course, it has nothing to do with anything. Creon is not being challenged on his manliness. He's being challenged on his intelligence. And Antigone is basically saying, if you can't figure out that what you're saying is stupid, then you're stupid. And he really doesn't like that. So he finishes up his little, she will be punished. So she is going to die. He does say she is going to die. Even though she's family, even though that's his niece, he's like, sorry about you. You going down too. The law is the law. So he's being firm, or being exactly the person he said he was going to be. Except for the listening part. Still not doing a lot of that. So Antigone says, take me and kill me. What do you want more? And he's like, I don't want anything else more. He says, I have everything. I have all the power. I have all the knowledge. And of course, that's not somebody who listens. That's not. Someone who listens is somebody who says, okay, you know more than I do. Inform me. Let me know how it is. But he doesn't do that. He knows everything. He's all knowing, I know everything. I'm King Creon. And so Antigone is really angry. Why are you waiting? Like, why do you keep, talking? Nothing you're saying has any impact on me. I don't care. Whatever you're saying is stupid anyway. Just kill me. But actually, they're actually just buying some time until Ismene gets there. And it says, in all of Thebes, you're the only one who looks at things that way. Like, as in, your brother needs to be, respected because he's dead. Everyone who's dead should be respected, is kind of her point. And really, that brings up the question, is she the only one? Because she says she's not. She said, a lot of people agree with me, but they're scared of you, and they're refusing to help me just because they're scared of dying, whereas I am not. She said, no, there is nothing shameful in honoring my mother's children. So there's nothing shameful in burying my family. Now, if I didn't, that would be shameful. So she's kind of throwing a little shade at Ismene right there, as well as Creon, but mostly Ismene, I think, in that particular statement. And then she insults him a little bit more. He insults her. Creon's like, you're dishonoring your brother. She's like, no, you're dishonoring both of my brothers by not burying them both. And of course, Creon's like, you're dishonoring Eteocles because you're burying Polynices like they were the same. And she's like, you're dishonoring my family by not burying both, respectively. And of course, you're going against the gods. If you don't bury all of them, if you don't give them their proper burial rites, then you're the one doing wrong, not me. Then it's interesting that he keeps harping on the fact that he says, no woman's going to govern me. So he's really focused on this manliness rather than his intellect or his intelligence, because he's been assuming that a man would go against his orders. No man is foolish enough. No, apparently a woman was. Um, and it's more insulting that Antigone did it, not just because she's a woman, but because she's a girl. She's still young. And also it's his family, so they're kind of wondering, well, does anybody listen to him? If his own family doesn't, if women don't, who does listen to Creon? Which is not a good position to be as a king. Um, and then, of course, we have Ismene come in, and Ismene is crying really excessively. And the chorus leader says she must really love her sister to be this upset about what's going on. And then Creon's like, insults them. He's like, oh, I have raised two snakes in my house, all this kind of stuff, like calling them, snakes or evil. Kind of like we would, the Adam and Eve snake kind of situation. So he insults them, and then Ismene and Antigone continue to disagree. So Ismene says, I helped. And Antigone's like, girl, what? You ain't doing nothing, because I asked you for help in section 1, and you refused to help me. You didn't want to die. So don't pretend like you're going to be honorable now, and don't pretend like you have anything to do with this now. And of course, Ismene's like, but you're my sister. What do I have to live for if you're dead? I won't have anything. I won't have anyone to look out for me. So I'm going to die with you. And Antigone just refuses. She flat out refuses to accept any help from Ismene. She's like, I will die alone because I did this alone with no help from you. And she's like, I'm not going to envy you for living. So do you, fam. But you ain't going to do it right here. And so Ismene kind of just gives up, and she's like, I love you, and I'm going to choose to die with you. And Antigone's like, absolutely not. You didn't do this. And she's a little offended. They're disagreeing once again, and we can definitely see that they don't agree on anything. And that speaks a lot to their character. But definitely think about why would Ismene want to die? To be with her sister. Couldn't she do more for her sister alive, maybe, or for her brothers? I don't know. But she does end up living, and Antigone is sentenced to death. So we have Ismene and Creon kind of talking later in the section around the end of page 341. And she's like, you're going to kill your son's future wife, because Antigone is actually engaged to Creon's son. His name is Haman. And he's like, my boy can get whoever he wants. He can plow his fields wherever. He can have whoever he wants. He doesn't need this trash, this betrayer, this awful person. And she's like, you're doing your son a real disservice by killing his future wife, because he seems pretty, in love with her, or at least really seems to like her. And then they just determine, well, Antigone's going to die anyway. There's nothing anyone can say or do about it, and that's how it be. And there will be no more delay. They have sentenced her to death, and they're going to take them to the palace and kind of keep them under guard until they decide how they're going to punish them. So at first it was going to be they were going to get stoned to death, but now we don't know what's going to happen. They haven't really said what the punishment will be. We just know that there will be a punishment. Ismene is being punished, but she's not being put to death like Antigone is. And then we have our third ode. So this one kind of focuses on why this family is having so much bad luck, and it's trying to explain it. So in the first part, it just kind of describes, this family, they've been going through so many bad things. Like, families go through bad things, but this one is just one thing after another, after another, after another, and they're trying to figure out why, because it's just so much bad. Like I said, their mother is dead, their father is dead, both of the brothers are dead, Antigone is now being put to death, Creon is being pretty unmanageable. So the whole family is kind of just having a whole catastrophe. And Anastrophe 1 kind of focuses on the gods. They're like, the gods must be attacking this family. They must have done something really bad to offend the gods, and the gods are the ones controlling all of this bad energy. And then they kind of question the next strophe 2. They're kind of like, can anything help them? Is there anything that can be fixed? Is there any like praying that can be done, or sacrifices or offerings that can help this family out? And then we have our last little Anastrophe 2. And it says basically stuff about hope. Hope can be a really great thing, and it can be a really negative thing. So if you've ever heard of the story of Pandora's box, all the evil stuff is released from Pandora's box, and hope was the last thing that crawls out of the box. It's like almost half dead. It's, crawling out really slowly. And hope can be a really great thing if it turns out positive, but hope can be a really negative thing because you're always hoping for something that will never happen. So it becomes a really big issue with this text. They're like, we can hope that something better happens for this family, but hope can be cruel. It can keep you hoping for something that will never happen or could never happen. So that's kind of how section 4 ends. So you have 4 questions for this week. It's 5, 7, 12, and 15. 15 is the chart. And basically it asks you to pick evidence for Creon, Antigone, and Ismene, and then explain kind of what their motivation as a character is. So what are they motivated by? What's making them do the things that they're doing or say the things that they're saying? And that'll be it for week 3, and that's the same stuff that is on your papers. So if you need an extra copy, it is on Google Classroom. If you don't have access to Google Classroom, you're welcome to message me. If you have any questions, guys, please talk to me. Remember, by Thursday, your question is due. You have to post a question for your classmates to answer. By Monday of next week, I need you to post your answer to one of your classmates' questions and the 4 questions from the textbook. Whether that needs to be on GroupMe, an email, on Google Classroom as a comment, whether you can turn it in on Google Classroom, whatever you have to do, get it to me. Some of you are still not doing any of the work. Guys, that is very, very bad. You need to be turning in your assignments weekly. I have due dates for a reason. They are all posted for you. Please do so. Follow the directions. Don't ask me when something is due. It's posted. Don't ask me what pages you have to read. It's posted. Don't ask me where the video is. It's posted. So you shouldn't be asking a whole lot of questions other than stuff about the material. If you do need to get in contact with me and maybe do a video chat meeting or whatever, let me know. I can go over some stuff with you. If you guys wanted to do another one of those, you're more than welcome. Let me know. Miss you guys. I'm hoping we go back after spring break, but if not, it is what it is, I guess. Hope to see you guys soon. Be good.